The age-old question I get every time I stream, record, or do anything in between on Warzone is how do I nail down my aim on controller, and how do I control recoil so well? It's been nearly a year since Warzone released, and I feel like most people actually don't have the right settings applied to really nail down the necessary shots to win important gunfights in Warzone. Accuracy is everything, and recoil control is also vitally important. If you want to use weapons such as the CR56 AMAX, which is one of the best time to kill in the game, then you need to be able to compensate for recoil effectively on controller. Now, somebody who plays both controller and mouse and keyboard is a relatively simplistic story. You point, you aim, you slightly move your mouse wheel down when you fire, and 9 times out of 10 you land all the shots. The controller situation, however, is much more complicated and much more difficult. Now in this video today, I'm going to be showing you guys the settings that you should be using and explaining why these settings are the best for Warzone. And also at the start of this video, I'm going to be talking about some common misconceptions around buying expensive controllers and what will make you a better player in the game. So let's start with the most obvious question. Do I need a very special controller to be a really good player or have good aim on Warzone? And the answer to that is a resounding no. I've used basically every controller from the Xbox Series Elite to standard Xbox to PlayStation 5 to PS4 to Astro C40TR to Scuff controller, and the simple fact of the matter is a default controller will aim just as fine as some of the more advanced ones. There are some perks to some of these controllers and we will quickly talk about that, but overall no, you're not going to be at a major disadvantage. Now there is a minor caveat to this, and of course this is probably more in a thing for PC players who get to choose the controller that they want to use. I have found personally, in my personal experience, that PlayStation controllers, for whatever reason on Warzone, seem to be exceedingly more accurate than Xbox controllers. Xbox controllers have this sort of weird thing on Warzone where the stick acceleration and the amount the analog stick needs to move just doesn't really work properly for the game. I don't really know if this is an Xbox problem or a Warzone problem, but considering how good the Xbox controllers have been, I'd hazard to guess it's just a weird system that they have with Warzone. It's really difficult to explain, but I find with PlayStation controllers, nailing really precise shots and making really precise adjustments is much more easier, and the stick acceleration kind of matches the movement of the analog stick. Whereas I find that for some reason on Warzone, the Xbox controller seems to have this very artificial stick acceleration that almost makes it feel a little bit like a D-pad in places. And it's not something I'd recommend if you are on PC, or if you do have the option, I would highly recommend using a PlayStation 5 DualSense controller, or even an Astro C40TR if you're looking to spend some extra money. Overarchingly, I'd say the best controller I've used to date is the Astro C40TR. It has configurable paddles, it also has the ability to change the layout between Xbox and PlayStation. It also has really great features such as dead zone adjustments, hardwire changes to the controller in terms of how it reacts and responds with acceleration, and just general quality of life things that you would expect from a premium controller. It's arguably the most configurable controller up there with the Xbox Series Elite controller, and I really think it's the best one you can use right now, and I highly recommend it. So what are the best settings to use? And this all has to do with something known as the response curve in Warzone. There are a few other things that you should adjust, but this is critically the most important setting. A response curve is effectively the algorithm or overall hardware/software encoding of the controller that determines how your movement of the stick corresponds to the movement that you see on screen. King Zillion has a really good screenshot explaining this, and effectively these are the 3 different types of response curves in Warzone, and that has to do with rotation speed. The standard curve is kind of an upward slope, and what that means is that if you move your analog stick progressively all the way to the left and right, the analog stick will steadily increase the responsiveness to the movement that it's detecting. Linear is a straight line, meaning that the input will always be 100% straight, in the sense that if you move left and right, the distance that you move based on the position of the stick is always guaranteed. The acceleration identically matches the movement of the stick, and for some people who like uniformity, linear definitely works for them. But the best response curve is the dynamic response curve, and that is an S-type shape. And what's really cool about this S-type shape is that the acceleration will increase and decrease based on the distance of the stick from the center. And what's really cool about this is that if you move your stick all the way to the left or right, you will snap left and right faster. But if your analog stick is in the center, then you'll have slightly less acceleration, and this is fantastic for making precise adjustments for recoil and precise adjustments for headshots and body shots. I combine this with a 10 horizontal and vertical sensitivity and a slightly reduced dead zone to 0.15 in order to create really great scenarios. Another key point is that you shouldn't change your actual sensitivity values for different ranges, such as using a long optic. And basically this allows you to generate really insane muscle memory. If you've ever wondered how I move so quickly in Warzone, this is how I do it, and this is also how I nail precise shots. The dynamic response curve allows me to snap left and right towards my target much quicker and akin to a mouse and keyboard, and the actual precise adjustments allow me to make those critical changes that will be the difference between a chest shot and a headshot. Now, if this is your first time using a dynamic response curve, I guarantee you that it's going to feel floaty and weird for the first couple of moments. It's going to feel very strange and you'll feel very out of your sorts. But it gives you a level of fluidity that simply isn't possible with the other response curves in the game. And if you're able to reduce your dead zone without initiating any kind of stick drift, then that means you'll be able to get really precision adjustments on every single shot you make, whether that's a sniper rifle or adjusting recoil for something like an AK-47 or an AMAX. As many of you will know in sweaty lobbies, typically it's one shot that makes the difference, a single bullet that can decide whether you win or lose a gunfight, or a single headshot. So having this ability to snap left and right and acquire new targets very quickly, and also be effective in terms of the damage you're putting out, is one of the most drastically changing things to your game that you will notice in Warzone. In my personal opinion, this is about as close as you can get to the precision of a mouse and keyboard, whilst having the mobility and freedom of movement of analog sticks. As somebody who is an avid tactical shooter player on PC on mouse and keyboard, this is the most accurate I have ever felt with a controller, even though I've played controller for decades effectively. If you've watched any of my gameplay, be that with a MAC-10, an AK-47 or an AMAX, whether the gun has high recoil or low recoil, most times out of 10 you can see that I'm able to effectively land headshots and body shots, and this is what makes my gameplay so much better. Warzone isn't about doing these amazing flanks and amazing plays. You know, those are things that just happen to happen. Warzone is about, if I'm facing across a room from somebody 20 meters away, will I outshoot them? And if your controller doesn't feel as snappy or as responsive or as able to land these precision shots, then that is the critical flaw that will likely let you down in gameplay. You can see in a couple of the clips and some of the gameplay that I've included that, you know, even if I'm using something low recoil, the ability to have something easy to land headshots with is a really great feeling. And if I'm using something high recoil, the ability to compensate for that and make sure that my shots land on target in the first place is also a fantastic gift to have. I also find with this setting that once you learn the lead time of sniper rifles, the ability to just absolutely decimate people with precise adjustments for headshots has made me a really effective Kar 98 player in Warzone, and something that I do highly recommend. So folks, that's about it for this video today, and that is how you get the best aim in Warzone. It's not a secret, it's not a huge secret, it's not, you know, buying a £500 controller and hoping for the best. It's just these simple settings that can make a huge difference. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video today. If you do, please feel free to leave a like, and I'll catch you again in the next one.